Hello friends and welcome to this EMR rounds. I saw this patient a couple of days back. She's a 36-year-old female presenting with complaints of headache, very diffuse headache, recent onset or a new onset headache for past 1 week only. That was her only complaint, nothing more, nothing less. Okay, there was no laterality of the headache. She just wanted to get her headache evaluated from an ophthalmologist. She thought it could be some kind of refractive error, and her both eyes defective vision was 612 and it did not improve. It was the best corrective visual acuity was just only 612. Her intraocular pressure was normal, her pupils were normal reacting to light. But on the examination of the fundus, there was bilateral disc edema. Her anterior segment was totally fine. Only in the fundus I was able to see elevated disc with obscured disc margins, obscured vessels. You can see cotton wool spots here. Okay, few hard exudates were also noted. Peripapillary retinal nerve fiber layer hemorrhages are also noted. Okay, so this is a very typical picture of an acute or an established papilledema. Okay, so not all disc edemas are going to be papilledema. You give the term specific for papilledema when there is going to be a rise in intracranial tension. So I thought, okay, this patient is having headache, so there should be something going on in her brain which is causing a rise in the intracranial tension, thereby having papilledema. Okay, so far we are on the right track. So what are the causes for increase in intracranial tension? It can be a space occupying lesion, it can be an idiopathic intracranial hypertension, or it can be a cerebral venous thrombosis. Usually we will consider IIH or idiopathic intracranial hypertension in obese females who are young to middle-aged females. We can suspect it, but she was not obese. She was fine. Space occupying lesions, yes, that could be a consideration. CVT, yes, there is also a possibility. But to prove any of these, we have to do an MRI. We have to do a neuroimaging has to be done for this patient. That is what we normally go about. But I want to ask you a question. Can I directly take this patient to the neurologist or the radiologist and get an MRI done? Is that the right way? As an ophthalmologist, what I should be doing? In other words, what is the most important investigation that you have to do as an ophthalmologist in bilateral disc edemas? So this patient is coming to you, bilateral disc edemas, fundus, the posterior pole is all fine, nothing much in the fundus going on, just disc edemas. So what will you do next? The most important investigation you have to do is you have to take a blood pressure. Very important. Take a blood pressure. The most important investigation in bilateral disc edema. To my surprise, the BP was 200/100, which means the patient disc edemas is because of sudden rise in systemic hypertension. That is what we call it as a malignant hypertension. Malignant hypertension. Okay. So I have to go back. I dilated the fundus and had a very closer examination. There was some vessel tortuosities were noted, but I did not see any hard exudates or any hemorrhages in the other parts of the fundus, not on the posterior pole. Just very mild vessel tortuosity, very few sclerosed vessels, not very significant amount of bleeding elsewhere. So this patient is having a hypertensive retinopathy with a bilateral disc edema. Why hypertensive retinopathy? Because of the vessel tortuosity, very few focal sclerosis was noted. Very easy to miss. Unless you have checked the BP, it's very easy to miss in this patient. So this is a grade 4 hypertensive retinopathy, which is what we call as a malignant hypertension. So this is the diagnosis made, and we have to send this patient to the physician to find out why she is having such a high hypertension, what is the etiology for this hypertension, and to reduce the blood pressure. So malignant hypertension is going to be a medical emergency. Please remember that. Which means there should be an urgent physician referral for the control of BP. Okay, and how the BP is reduced is not our concern, it's not under our purview. But note that that particular blood pressure, which is very high, should not be reduced rapidly. You have to slowly reduce the blood pressure. else there is going to be an ischemia. It can even lead on to a myocardial infarction when you have a sudden drop of blood pressure. That's why it is always prudent to refer to the patient to the cardiologist or to the physician for proper management. Secondly, malignant hypertension means the person is having an end organ damage. Because of the systemic hypertension, it has affected the vasculature of the target organs such as the eye, to be more precise, the retina, the brain, kidneys and the heart. Okay, so presence of a hypertensive retinopathy, especially malignant hypertension, indicates that there is an end organ damage, and it is important for us to evaluate the other areas such as the heart, kidneys and the brain as well, because there is a high risk of stroke, there is high risk of renal failure, there is a high risk of coronary artery thrombosis or coronary artery disease. Okay. Now let us look at hypertensive retinopathy in brief. Okay, there are basically 4 stages. There are multiple classifications given by multiple people. Don't confuse. This is a very simple staging system. According to the pathophysiology, initially there will be a vasoconstrictive stage, which will go in for a sclerotic stage, then an exudative stage, and lastly it's going to be the malignant hypertension stage. So what are they? To understand, see, first and foremost, when there's going to be a rise in BP, there's going to be more blood pressure. So the vessel wall is going to auto-regulate by controlling the blood flow. It is going to go for a vasoconstriction. That is the vasoconstrictive stage, stage 1. As the BP is going to be having a sustained and a chronic rise in blood pressure, that is going to alter the vessel wall, or what you have is the vessel wall sclerosis starts to occur. Vessel wall thickening starts to occur, or arteriolosclerosis. The hyalinization of the vessels are going to happen. The vessel wall going to get thickened. Okay, as a result of which the lumen gets thinned out. So vessel wall thickening leading on to a lumen thinning. And the vessel wall is going to get thick, it's going to get hard, and it is going to be heavy. So this particular arteriole is going to be very heavy because it is a thickened vessel wall and is going to lie on a venule or a vein. Okay, that happens in such a way that it is going to nip or nick at the AV junction, at the arteriolo-venular junctions. You will have a nipping. Okay, so this is a very important sign called as the Salus sign. There are multiple other signs like Bonnet sign. You have many signs over there, but forget all of them. Just remember that when there is going to be a sclerosis of the arteries or the arterioles, that is going to give a pressure on the venules, causing this nipping or nicking at the AV junctions. And such an artery which has the potency to cause that nipping or nicking is called the copper wiring or the silver wiring pattern of the arteries. Okay, very easy. But whenever there is going to be an acute elevation of blood pressures now and then, the vessel wall undergoes necrosis, or a fibrinoid necrosis happens. A fibrinoid necrosis of the vessel wall happens. So when the vessel wall is going to get damaged, it's going to get necrosed, it is going to leak out. So what it is going to leak out? It is going to leak out blood, forming a retinal hemorrhage. It can leak out lipids, forming hard exudates. Okay, and these blood vessels might also supply the retinal nerve fiber layer. So when this is going to be affected, when the vessel wall is going to be thinned out, there is going to be ischemia of the retinal nerve fiber layer, manifesting as the soft exudates or cotton wool spots. This is the basic pathophysiology of the hypertensive retinopathy, why there is going to be hemorrhages, why there is going to be hard exudates and cotton wool spots. Very important. Okay, this is grade 3. The sclerotic stage is grade 2. Okay, now when there is going to be very high sudden onset accelerated hypertension, very high blood pressure, that can lead on to bilateral disc edema as well. So all the findings of grade 3 with the bilateral disc edema is what we call as a malignant hypertension. This is the textbook definition of malignant hypertension. All findings of grade 3, all these things with the bilateral disc edema is malignant hypertension. Never ever forget that. So some of the pictures to show, This is a sclerotic stage where you can see, these black arrows are showing the AV nicking. Okay, this is the sclerosed arteriole or artery is going to overlie, it's going to lie on the compressed venule. This is the AV nicking. Okay, and you can also see a focal narrowing of the arterioles, and you can see the silver wiring or the copper wiring of the arteries as a result of the sclerosis. This is sclerotic stage. When it comes to the exudative stage, there's going to be cotton wool spots, there is going to be hemorrhages here and there. Okay, very, very important, don't miss them. It's very easy to miss a cotton wool spot or a small microaneurysms, which are very common in case of this exudative stage or stage 3. And you combine all the features of the grade 3 with a disc edema, and that is what you call as a malignant hypertensive retinopathy or a malignant hypertension. But wait, our patient did not have grade 3. If you could recollect, our patient had only bilateral disc edema. There were no hemorrhages in the fundus. Okay, just bilateral disc edema with very, very subtle changes in the retinal vessels. Only disc edemas, only mild tortuosity. Can we diagnose this patient to have a malignant hypertension? Yes, of course you can. This is what Ryan's textbook of retina gives us. Very, very important. The above phases, what I have discussed, stages 1, 2, 3 and 4, they are not sequential. You don't need to have a 3 to have 4. Okay, you don't need to have a 2 to have 3. So they're not sequential. So it doesn't mean that 3 should lead on to 4. You can directly go in for stage 4 or malignant hypertension when there is a high sudden onset accelerated rise in blood pressure. Very, very important. That is why in our patient, we can confidently grade the patient to have a malignant hypertension because of the rise in blood pressure, just 200/100. So malignant hypertension is possible even with only disc edemas and very, very subtle retinal changes. So the take home message is that whether you think of a hypertension or not, check blood pressure in all disc edemas. Check blood pressure in all disc edemas. That is a take home message. But the controversy is that, can you call MH or a malignant hypertension as a papilledema? See, strictly speaking, papilledema is the term you use whenever there's going to be disc edemas as a result of rise in ICT. The answer for this question is both yes and no. Some textbooks call the disc edemas in hypertension, malignant hypertension as papilledema because people consider the theory for the disc edemas to be a rise in intracranial tension because of hypertensive encephalopathy. So a rise in ICT is what causing the disc edemas because of rise in blood pressure. So yes, you can call it as a papilledema. Some textbooks say no, you cannot call because of this reason. The other theory why you have disc edema in MH is going to be rise in BP causing a local ischemia of the optic nerve blood supply, which is resulting in a disc edema. Okay, so these are going to be the two important reasons why there is a disc edema. Rise in ICT or can be localized. So you can call it as a papilledema or not. But forget the controversies. Remember only this. Whenever you see a patient with disc edemas, the least you can do is to get a blood pressure. Anybody can do, as long as you're a doctor, as long as you're a nurse. Never ever forget that. Thank you so much for listening. Take care. Bye-bye.